Hello lovelies, Dr. May is here. Today we're solving May-June 2012, Paper 1, Variant 2. Before starting, I give you my sincere apologies for not being consistent with my uploads, but it's been hectic recently, but I'll try my best to be consistent with it. So if you have any recommendations for me or requests, please feel free to write them in the comments because I do check the comment section and I do follow your requests. Okay, let's see what question number 1 says. It shows us a picture where the two power stations are placed, power station A and B. Power station A looks like wind turbines out there, and power station B, if you don't know it, you're gonna find out in the questions, but since I solved this paper, so it's gonna be nuclear power station. Name the energy source used at A. Since we know that's a wind turbine, so of course it's wind energy. Now, why do we have wind turbines outside, like outskirts, away from people, away from population, away from cities? And same goes with nuclear power stations. Why are they placed outside? For one, to not disturb and cause any pollution. Okay, so they're gonna disturb people living there. They take up very large space, so that's another one. And when we mention pollution, we're gonna write visual pollution and noise pollution because these wind turbines do generate noisy sounds. So just one reason why this location was chosen. We spoke about that. It should not be nearby any buildings or people. Okay, people, we got the point because of pollution. But why buildings? Like, why shouldn't there be a lot of buildings even if it's just factories around? Because obstruction happens. Obstruction, what do I mean by that? When buildings are present here, if the wind is blowing from this side, from east to west, this is east and this is west. If it blows from east to west, then it's going to be blocked by the building and the wind turbines are not going to receive as much. So they're not going to release or generate energy as they must be generating. The other point is that because of open spaces or up the hill, when up the hill more air currents are there, it's more windy up there, so it's better. Or near the sea because of more wind currents. When any question says suggest one reason why this location was chosen, you have to only stick to that question and only write one reason. Don't force it and write more than one reason. If you're not sure about your answer, just stick to the one you think it's the best answer or most likely is the answer since you're not sure. But don't write more than one answer. I just wrote these two so you could brainstorm and know what the mark scheme wants from you. B is a nuclear power station. Nuclear energy does not contribute to acid rain, that's 1. And 2, global warming, that's 2. Let me change the color because it's annoying me. Okay, so first thing we got acid rain, and second thing we got the global warming. And they're telling you that nuclear power station does not contribute in these, okay? They want one source of energy that contribute in both. Of course, you're going to mention the unrenewable resources such as the oil, gas, coal, fossil fuels. But let's revise what causes acid rain and what causes global warming. Both of them, okay, are caused by oil, gas, coal, and fossil fuels. Acid rain is caused by the release of oxides, such as sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides mainly. And global warming is done by the excessive release or the presence of greenhouse gases. And we got carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor are the main greenhouse gases. Okay? Carbon dioxide are released from combustion and from respiration. And we got methane is released from the rice fields or from cattle. And water vapors, they're abundant from water. Describe 2 problems with nuclear energy. This is why the power station is outskirt. Why? Because it's radioactive, so it leaks. Radio rays are leaked. They cause mutation that leads to cancer, and they are very difficult to dispose and risk of usage by terrorists. One form of renewable energy that is growing in importance is biomass, and it's showing us the energy used in USA at present. We got the total is 100, and the total renewable energy is 7. That makes 93 over here for the total amount used, like petroleum, natural gas, and coal, and nuclear electric power. What percentage of all USA Energy does biomass provide, and show you're working. We got 50% off the 7, okay? So we're gonna make 50%. We're gonna remove the percent by dividing it by 100. So 50 divided by 100, multiply the 7, because that's the total of the renewable product is gonna be 3.5%. Renewable energy is one alternative to burning fossil fuels, which cause pollution. We spoke about fossil fuels. Fossil fuels release the carbon dioxide and sulfur oxides. What changes can people make in their daily lives that will reduce the use of fossil fuels? When we talk about reduction in fossil fuels, we're mainly talking about cars or exhausts, okay? So you're gonna say you should cycle more or walk more, public transportation, car sharing, insulating the house to prevent using warmers and ACs because they also need energy, turn off appliances when they're not used. Air sources should be used instead of the unrenewable, such as wind, solar, tidal, and geothermal, because they can be claimed from the earth itself or naturally, so there's no limit for its usage. Measure of human well-being included infant mortality and life expectancy. Infant mortality is the death, and life expectancy, it's how long they're going to live. So as you can see in the first trend, before reading the question is going to ask you to describe the changes shown by the graph, but before seeing the question, you should be able to understand what you're seeing. So describe it to yourself before writing your answer. What do you see here? You see a decrease, okay, in the infant mortality. There is significant decrease. It decreased the most in 2005, and the highest mortality rate was during this period, okay? How you're gonna write your answer, you're gonna say that overall there is a decrease with time, and then you're gonna find the data saying that this period is where it leveled off, where the highest point was this point, and the lowest point was this point. Just write a data. Next, it's talking about the life expectancy. Again, without reading the question over here, we're going to see what the trend looks like. The trend looks increasing, so that's what we're gonna say. Read the question carefully, because sometimes they can ask you to explain the trend. And it says describe. You're going to just describe what you're seeing, okay? We see an increase in the trend. We see little fluctuations here and there. That's unnoticeable. So we're going to say their overall increase. We can say if it leveled off, then we're going to say there's a level off. If it increased and then leveled off and then decreased, we're going to mention that. So it's just something you're seeing. You're describing, but you're seeing. If it said to explain, so you're going to describe what you first saw, and then using your own information, you're going to explain and support your description. Second question here is an explain question. It says, how does this trend for life expectancy differ from that of infant? So we want to understand what's the difference and why, okay? You're going to say that we said describe first thing. We're going to describe, so the trend increases, or there's an overall increases, or it rises, and as the death rate decreases, the life expectancy for people increases, okay? Human migration has occurred throughout history. People move because they do not like where they are. That's push factors. And people think somewhere else is better. That's pull factors. Pushing away, okay? Pushing people away. Pulling people towards them, okay? So let's see. Not enough job. That's definitely a push factor. Attractive climate. That's definitely a pull factor because it might be warmer summers or warmer winters. Attractive climate. Poor medical care, push. Desertification, definitely a push because the lands are dry and that's going to reduce the crop yield released per year. So it's not nice. Better educational, pull. More services, pull. Drought, it's push. Better job opportunities, definitely pull. Political freedom, a pull. People have free speech. High levels of pollution, that's push. Poor housing, a push. And war, it's definitely push. People may move from one country to another or within a country. Movements within one country are usually between urban and rural, and it's usually people move from rural to urban. In which direction is the movement of people happening in most developing countries? Village to town or rural to urban, and why? Why does this happen? This happens because rural people are not or don't have as many facilities as urban people have due to more population presence in urban areas or in the cities. That's why they move to have better facilities such as education, medical, food, job opportunities. Living standards there are better, clean roads and houses, just better. Everything is better in cities. What is the name given to this process? It's urbanization. Why do we call it urbanization? Because they move to urban areas. Okay, urbanization. Over 99% of the atmosphere consists of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. Which of these is a pollutant? Carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas. Other pollutants enter the atmosphere as a result of human activity. The list below shows some of these and some of the activities. Link each pollutant to the correct activity by writing one letter next to the appropriate activity. Okay. Pollutant, we got CFCs, methane, sulfur dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, and lead. Burning coal and gases, like burning fossil fuels, combustion is going to release the oxides, as I told you. So it's going to be sulfur oxide and nitrogen oxide. Using aerosols, they release CFCs as well as the AC. AC also releases CFC. How to remember that? Remember that AC releases CFC. So see in both, connect them together. You can remember it better that way. Growing rice, definitely methane, and kettles also release methane. Burning refined petroleum. Petroleum here, it releases lead, okay, and oxides, but mainly nitrogen oxide, not sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is mainly released by fossil fuels and coals and gases. Which pollutant causes a reduction in the thickness of the ozone layer? CFC. Give two sources of the CFC pollutant: aerosols, refrigerators, and ACs. How might the ozone hole affect the environment and humans? When ozone is depleted, this big hole happens. When this big hole happens, it's going to cause the UV to enter the earth more. Okay, so it will increase the earth's surface temperature more. It will increase the temperature there. It will trap more heat than it tends to be. So it's going to cause global warming. And that's going to cause sunburns, mutation, cancer. It's going to cause the global warming such as melting of glaciers, increasing the sea levels, and cause many natural hazards. Describe strategies that have been used to reduce the problem of the ozone hole. Whenever you mention ozone, you should automatically reduce the CFCs because they are the main cause. So we use HCFCs, which is hydrochlorofluorocarbons, instead of chlorofluorocarbons. Governments should introduce a law about banning the use of CFCs. They should make ACs that uses HCFCs better than CFCs, and exchange devices, okay? Instead of devices that contains or releases CFCs, they could exchange it for the HCFCs better. Study the graph below showing changes in tourism in Kenya between 1990 and 2004. What is the percentage increase in tourism between that to this? As you can see, there is an increasing trend overall. There's little fluctuations, but overall the trend is increasing. So how do you find the percentage difference? We're going to find new value, okay, minus the old value over the old. So what new value is here? That's 2004. And the old value here, it's 1990 over 1990, okay? So we're going to go at 1990, it's 800, and 2004, it's going to be 1320. So new minus old over old. 30 and 20 minus 800 over 800 multiplied by 100 because we want percentage. It's going to give you 65%. So just some advantages of this increase in tourism in Kenya. The first answer that should come into your mind is increase in money. More money income, which will improve the economy of the country. And when economy is better, it's going to cause an improvement in the lives of the local people, education, healthcare facilities, and infrastructure. It also causes an increase in job opportunities, or more job opportunities will be present. You can mention an example such as touristic guides or tourist guides. Some of the tourists visiting Kenya are ecotourists. Some of the features of the ecotourism are listed below. Ecotourism. Tourism that does not harm the ecosystem or the environment in a negative way. So they enjoy the country and enjoy the nature without damaging it. Wildlife is protected. Maasai tribes people employed as guides. They share in the benefits of the tourist trade. Ways of life are maintained and national parks are set up. Describe how these features show ecotourism. Natural parks conserves wild animals, protecting them and at the same time allowing tourists to enjoy their site. The guides educate the tourists about the importance of conserving the wildlife and how the conservation process. For instance, by educating them about how to spend more time in nature and how to learn more about them, decreasing the chances of their extinction. Furthermore, employing guides is a job opportunity to many, increasing money income, which will help to improve the national park and also cause wildlife conservation. In Kenya, there is great potential for ecotourism, which will benefit the country. There are large game reserves where the big five animals, the elephant, lion, leopard, buffalo, and rhino, are protected for their tourist value. Explain why there is a conflict between local people and tourists about protecting these animals. The big five large animals are dangerous animals, and there's a risk that they could break free and chase the tourists and cause them harm. They can also cause damage to the infrastructure surrounding the place or in the national park and the crops in the area. They need large spaces to live in and can cause loss of tribal lands. Look at the graph showing changes in the population of bluefin tuna in Western Atlantic from 1970 to 1991 when fishing became uneconomic. This is the tuna, the dotted dark one. The black ones are tuna numbers and the catch increases. So as the catch increases, of course, the tuna numbers are gonna drop. That's exactly what happens. In which year did the tuna population numbers start to decline? This part, 1974. Suggest one possible cause for this decline. Catch, of course, by the catch, that's the main thing. Overfishing, you can say disease, you can say pollution, you can say fish migration, you can say any reason that could cause their decrease in number or their death. What strategies might have stopped this decline? Laws, quotas, restricted seasons and restricted areas. Restricted seasons are the breeding seasons. Usage of large mesh instead of small ones to allow the little fish to escape so they could grow up and breed more. Strategies to reduce pollution, using the booms to prevent the oil from spreading or trash cans placed on beaches to prevent contaminating the waters with plastics which can suffocate the fish when ingested. The table shows the source of marine population. Okay, you got the table and they ask you to plot a pie graph. You should go from big to small. This is the new rule from Cambridge. I solved this before knowing about this. It's an old solved paper. So please make sure you solve it from big to small. So you're starting off by the runoff from land. That's number 1. And then the atmosphere. And then it's going to be the transport. And then it's going to be dumping. And lastly, it's going to be the offshore oil and gas. So plot it correctly and send it to me. Make sure that we follow our key. We make a correct key and follow it in here. Make sure your axis is labeled. If it's not labeled, make sure you label it. And you always start from this line, midline, okay? Start from the middle and go clockwise, okay? Describe how pollution for marine transport might be reduced by laws. Laws should be introduced on banning cleaning the tanks out, double-hulled oil tankers to prevent any oil leakage, and transport oil use pipelines instead. The last question we have in this paper, it's about graph. This paper contains a lot of graphs, I know. The graph below shows variation in precipitation over a 95-year period at a weather station in Australia. See the highest year was this year. Above the line, that's an increase. Below the line, that's a decrease. In which 10-year period was it much wetter than average? This one, the highest one, since they're talking about a period, so you have to mention this period, okay? If they mention just the year, you're gonna mention that it was 1950. But since they mentioned period, you're gonna write a range, okay? How long was the longest continuous period of below average? Below average was 5 years. It was this period. Fluctuations in rainfall can be balanced with fluctuations in demand by storage and release of water. This can be done by building dams across rivers. On the diagram, X, Y, and Z show 3 possible sites for the dam. 3 answers are correct, but they will only count when you support your answers. I wrote them in 3 different colors, but the best site I'm gonna take is gonna be X. Okay, so let's mention X together. Let's see why X is a good site. X is good because it's point about high, so power of flow, gives more energy there. It's away from people, so reduced any disturbance, and you can say any valid point you have in your mind. Why is Y a good area? Y is good because it's narrow part, so valleys act as walls. Greatest height for water, greatest force, and better than Z because fewer people will live there. Z, it's near people who need power. They will take advantages of the full flow of river and controlled river, which will reduce the flooding risk. Water is essential for life, but in some parts of the world it can carry diseases. First thing that should come in your mind, cholera and malaria. Okay? Complete the table below listing water-related diseases. This is omitted, so you don't have to know it. You don't have bilharzia, so skip that part. It's cholera, typhoid because they are waterborne diseases, and malaria, that's the disease transmitted by the female mosquito, and it's water-bred because mosquitoes breed in water. That was it for today's session.